There are many midlife women executives who want to go for their next promotion or take the leap and start their own business, but there are many fears they must face, not to mention ageism, sexism, and all the other isms. We are in the time of change, and so why not make the change work for us by doing one bold move a day? That is why I'm excited to have with me here today author Shanna Hocking to talk about her new book, One Bold Move a Day. I have it right here. Meaningful actions women can take to fulfill their leadership and career potential. Welcome, Shanna, to the new mid.
Michelle, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
As you can see, I absolutely love your book. It's all like tagged and highlighted. Well, I don't have a highlight picture here, but it's tagged and highlighted and just recorded to memory. I love this book.
Beautiful. I love seeing all those different points that you highlighted. So that makes my day. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on writing it. And one of the things I love is the title. And believe it or not, my word for 2023 is bold.
See, it's meant to be that we're having this conversation right now. I love it.
So I believe it started as a podcast, correct? One Bold Move, and then you made a book. So where did you come up with this title?
So, one bold move a day was a challenge I gave to myself many years ago when I was feeling really like all of the things that had happened to all of us as women in the workplace had gotten into my head and were holding me back from achieving what was important to me. And I needed this guiding mantra to remind me of why I got started and why I wanted to keep going. And so I said I would just make one bold move a day. And that was all I needed to do. And started really before I came up with this name for it, but it very consciously drove me. Every time I had to think, should I speak up in this meeting? Should I ask for what I want? Should I help this person? It was, yes, this is your bold move. Now go do this.
Which is great because we are a lot of times our own worst enemy. And a lot of that starts with our mindset. And you start off the book talking about 4 different mindsets.
Yes. So the bold move mindset is made up of 4 distinct but complementary mindsets: the gratitude mindset, the and mindset, the happiness mindset, and the progress mindset.
And so with those 4 in combined, is that just what you naturally started doing when you were doing one bold move a day? And I have to say, we all know what the gratitude mindset is, being grateful. But I read this and mindset, and I was like, what is that?
So the and mindset really started for me during the pandemic when we were experiencing one of the most challenging times in our lives. And there were still days where we had really wonderful things happen. We connected with a loved one. We laughed together with a colleague. We saw something beautiful in nature because the only thing that we could do was to get outside. And when I talked with people, they started to say that they felt guilty about feeling something positive when the world was suffering. And what was happening, Michelle, is that we had these like 2 competing feelings. And when you have 2 competing things, it starts to feel uncomfortable on the inside until we start to look for that beautiful space in the middle where they can overlap and coexist. And that's really where the and mindset came from for me and really helped guide me that you can find joy even in challenge.
Well, it's what's so good about that is a lot of times it makes me realize that people won't let themselves be happy because they feel like they have so many things that they have to do and so many challenges. I love how you go from the and mindset to realize you can have both of these things to the happiness mindset because people need to realize it's okay to be happy. And one of the things that I shouldn't be putting words in your mouth, but I did read this in your book, is that whenever you were doing something, your mom would say to you, remember to have fun.
That's right. That's right. I was so focused on the next thing I needed to accomplish, the next goal, the next milestone, the next win. And My mom has always been my biggest cheerleader, and she would say to me, Shauna, remember to have fun along the way. And, she informs a lot of the things that I talk about in this book, both in terms of happiness and celebrating progress along the way.
Because the journey does matter. Be
Absolutely.
the present, the here and now, enjoying this. Like, I'm enjoying this conversation so much.
As am I. Well, and to that point, it's not just the journey that we're on by ourselves, it's the journey and the people we bring with us on this journey. People who are here to support us, to challenge us, to learn with us, to help us grow. That is really what makes this journey even more meaningful every step.
And I like that because you talk about, if we're talking about midlife women wanting to go for it, wanting to go for that promotion, or wanting to go for a new career, or change businesses, you have a whole chapter about that, and you bring in what's super important about networking.
Networking is how all of us can both achieve our goals and also find joy in the process. It's not just about the goal, it's about the people that we meet and the people we want to serve and help and support and learn from along the way. And at any stage in your career, but particularly when you're making these incredibly big leaps in your midlife, really stepping into allowing yourself to make these big leaps, the people who are there with you to open up doors, to guide you, are essential to you being able to achieve your success.
And you also put in there, which people might not realize, but it's important to have mentors and advocates even in midlife.
At every stage of your career, I think about the value that people who are either just a few steps ahead of me or literally right next to me on this journey can really say, here's something that I've learned. I spoke with a peer mentor this morning. It was an impromptu call. And, she and I have really gotten to know each other only in the last few months, but I already consider her a peer mentor. Really, in this midlife space, being able to say, I don't know it all, I need to rely on other people, is a sign of strength. And we get to do that in a way that we can embrace ourselves more fully in asking for help.
Well, it's kind of funny because, we both have a friend, Elizabeth, and I interviewed Elizabeth on this podcast, and she's amazing, Sandler. And I asked her, who could you recommend me to interview? And she's like, oh, I know exactly who you need to interview. And so that's why we're here today, which is fun. And I have, like I said, I really enjoyed your book, and you have such an interesting take on goals. And I really enjoyed that chapter, and you talk about name dropping, but there's so much research out there on goals, and all of the different things, and the um habit stacking, and those sorts. What did you find that worked for you with goals, and why do you think you are getting the results you're getting?
Well, the first thing I think that's a distinct approach to goals is that I really believe that you should set very large goals for yourself that are important to who you want to become. And I call them unicorn goals. They're the ones that you believe deeply in, but maybe nobody else really believes that they're possible. And you cannot let other people deter you from achieving and working toward your unicorn goals. And I spent a long time hiding my unicorn goals and not wanting to put them out there to the world. And then I made a pivot a few years ago to saying, here's my stake in the ground. Here's what's important to me to achieve, because I know I will need other people to support me along the way. And going back to the progress mindset, being able to celebrate your progress along the way, because goals don't always happen exactly the way you hope or plan. And bold moves don't turn out the way you hope or plan. But what did I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And then that will help me feel more motivated to keep going and keep working toward those goals.
Well, so you brought up a bold move. So what are the bold moves that you use towards your unicorn goals?
Well, first, I think it's valuable to redefine what bold move means, because when people hear it for the first time, they often think all caps text to a friend or on a billboard, bold move. And while I'm all for those kinds of bold moves, particularly for midlife women, it's important to realize that I define a bold move as any meaningful action that helps you grow, move forward, and learn. And so that means a bold move is absolutely moving across the country, taking a promotion, asking for a raise. And a bold move is also nurturing a relationship with a mentor or a peer, saying hello to someone for the very first time. And it's asking someone to pronounce your name correctly when they don't know how to say it. And so I think this part's important when I talk about bold moves, because when it comes to goals, you can set these unicorn goals, but realize that your bold moves in working toward them might look very different every day. You don't just say, I want to run a marathon and then go run a marathon. That's a bold wish. You say, I want to run a marathon, and here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to ask if a friend wants to train with me. I'm going to buy the right shoes for myself. I'm going to figure out if there's a running club in my neighborhood. And all of those are bold moves. So you break down that unicorn goal into pieces and parts that you can work toward every day.
Well, what's wonderful about the book is that you put in suggestions for bold moves at the end of every chapter.
Well, I thought it would be really helpful as people start to take on this approach to have this guidance of here's what a bold move can look like. And as you know, I also say that you define what a bold move is for you. I don't define what a bold move is, because some days my bold move might look nothing like yours. My bold move from yesterday might be really different than mine from today. So when you define your own bold move, my job is to give you the guidance and the approach, and then you figure out how to make this work for you.
Saying that, did you try a bunch of different types of bold moves before you put them in the book? And were there any bold moves that you tried that you didn't include in the book that you thought, oh, maybe I should have put this in?
Well, when I think about, bold moves throughout my career and life, as I was writing this book, the day I turned in my manuscript was the day that I resigned from my corporate nonprofit job. And that was never something that I envisioned doing for myself. I found my dream career at age 18 and worked my way up to the corner office. So as I was writing this manuscript, I turned in the book, then making one of the biggest bold moves of my life by starting my own business full time. And so I think that there are bold moves that are not in the book only because they've occurred more recently. But I think that the ones that are in there are the ones that I really wanted to share with people to help them feel inspired to make their own.
Well, talking about the unicorn goals and your manuscript, that was one of your unicorn goals.
That's
And
right.
it didn't happen, right? So you were saying things don't quite happen as you think they're going to be.
For sure. So my unicorn goal, probably going back to childhood, but I did say it out loud for the first time as an adult in probably about 2017 that I wanted to write a book. And and the first time that I really got back out there with what was the first draft of what I would call, the first draft of the first book that never came to be, I got rejected by every agent that I submitted to. And this was at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And the last rejection came right after we all moved to working remotely, due to the pandemic. And so life changed, we changed. And when I went back out there the second time with this new book concept, this new book idea, which was a cousin of the first, it was so much stronger and so much clearer because life changed us during the pandemic. And I got clearer about what I wanted to serve and how I wanted to serve. And so you have to keep going, because I could have easily let all of those rejections deter me from achieving my goal.
And that's the thing that really you hold on to is that why, the service, and that keeps you going. And it's the process. And because you had all of those rejections, you have a much better book. And so it's seeing through that to be able to hold on to that and realize, no, this is part of the process. This is the journey. And I know it's not always easy to wake up and make that bold move each day. But I think that's a big reason why it's important to have the why, have the goal, have that unicorn goal. And you talk at chapter 2 about believing in yourself.
Yes, because that's the foundation by which, between having the right mindset and believing in yourself, to then go make these bold moves and follow through. Because as we just talked about, they really don't always go the way we want them to. Even if we do, quote, all the right things, whatever that means, there still may not work out. And so we have to have that courage and that follow through to keep trying again the next day, and realizing that it may not happen on the timeline we envisioned initially, or it may not happen at all. And we can learn from that and then pivot into the next direction we make.
And I think being able to pivot is huge, especially in midlife, because things are being thrown at us from every direction. But it does come back to believing in yourself. And one of the things that you put in the book, and I'm going to quote you because this really was powerful to me, is it's about guilt.
Mm,
Because my generation is the Gen X generation, and right now we're the sandwich generation. So we are taking care of. I have a 14-year-old and 11-year-old. I have braces, I'm dealing with that. And then, unfortunately, my father has a really big decline. He has dementia, and trying to balance those two things. So that's like putting everyone else in front of myself. And not only believing, but you also talk in a chapter about investing in yourself. But that comes with a lot of guilt, uh,
yes.
trying to do that. And I love this quote that you talk about guilt. You say, guilt is what we let other people determine what our priorities are. I was like, I am going to post that somewhere and look at that because that is so true.
Well, I'm glad that that resonated with you. Writing about guilt, it was one of those things where in conversations with friends or coaching clients or, direct reports in my former job, you would hear these things come out and they're heartbreaking. People are saying, oh, I feel so guilty that I fill in the blank. And it's usually a tiny something that they would have done for themselves. And I just wanted to say, no, no, friend, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make these investments in yourself so that you can do all the caring and loving and support that you provide to your community, to your family, and that the guilt robs us of being present in the moment. And going back to something you said earlier, we have to have this permission feeling to feel happy. Well, we also have to give ourselves permission to be in the moment and to do the best decision we can with the information we have at the time. And then we can figure out the future when the future is here too.
And just be.
And
That
just
can,
be.
and just be. And that can be a bold move.
Absolutely. Because it is a bold move. If you think about it, there's always something else we can do. The to do list is infinitely long. Our lives have so many demands. So saying, I'm going to pause right now and I'm going to just be, I'm going to read the newspaper. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to go the long way to get a coffee. I'm going to go to the library, whatever it is, those choices that we make is how we refuel ourselves for the future. And it is a bold move to make that investment in ourselves.
And you talk about the to do list
I
and
sure
how
do.
that works for your schedule, because I think that is important to talk about that.
Well, every woman I know has an infinitely long to-do list. And, sometimes I hear people say things like, well, it was a productive day. And what does that mean? I mean, you checked off everything on your to-do list. Well, were you on that list? Was anything important to you on that list, or was that everybody else's expectations of you? And so we confuse this idea that we had a good day because we were, quote, productive, and in reality, are we doing the best and highest use of time on that list? Are we making meaningful actions toward who we want to become? Yes, there's definitely, we have to go pick up the dry cleaning and the kids from school and take them to the orthodontist. And, did I make an outreach call to that person that I've been wanting to meet about that new job or speaking opportunity or whatever that is? Because that belongs on the quote to do list too.
Which it's okay for that to be there. And it goes back to that guilt and taking care of yourself and everything. And I think it's important that we realize in midlife, this is our time. I say that over and over again. I'm like, this is our time. So, what would your advice be to someone who's listening to this right now and they're sort of in that in between, whether it's they're not sure if they want to leave their job when they hand in their manuscript, or or they might be in between gigs they might be waiting for the next gig, or they're thinking about going for the promotion, but at the same time, that's going to take away family time. What is your advice for someone who's right in the middle of this change, of this transition of pivoting?
I really think it all goes back to who do you want to become? And not what other people's expectations are for your future self, but who do you want to become? If you give yourself the permission to sit down with a pen and paper or go sit, by the water or in nature, and even 10 minutes to think, what is most important to me? Where do I get the greatest energy from? Where do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend my time with? And how does this align with my values and my plans for myself? And then when you can answer those questions honestly, that will help inform whatever those next steps are for you. If you think about the choices that you're making, there are always trade offs that have to happen. They don't have to be as vastly different as we sometimes create them in our mind. It goes back to the and mindset. I've gone up for many different promotions and jobs that have required adjustments in my family life. And I love talking to my son about what choices I have made and how I am doing things that are important to me and how I'm also there to support him too, and how I want him to see that. That's what mom is doing. And that's what's possible for me. And that's what's possible for women everywhere. Because when you make these choices for yourself, you inspire others.
And that's when you're vibing high and not living small and not hiding, because so many women hide in plain sight. And so many women have, I'll bring it back to guilt and obligations and not letting themselves break free from these chains because we have been handed down. The Gen X generation is really an interesting generation because we didn't break the glass ceiling like the
Mhm.
boomers did, but we are still walking on the shards. I like to say, on the shards of the glass.
Yes. Yes.
And, I had some bosses that were very much, hey, I had to go through this. So,
Mhm.
so do you. But I have to say, I love the new generation because the younger generation, they help each other. Like that is so amazing. And I think it's kind of starting to change, which is really good. But I think having our leadership, being the leader that we know we can be, is so important, and being able to step into that, and that's a bold move right there. So I
For
guess
sure.
that's the shift in mindset as well.
Yes, when we think about bold moves, the way that I talk about them, they are there to help you advance your career, develop as a leader, and grow as a person. The bold move approach is not just for your career, it's not just for your professional goals. And this part is important because we are whole people. And so when we make career choices, they affect us personally. And when we have personal situations, they affect us at work. And so this has to be an integrated, holistic approach to how we live our lives, by giving ourselves permission to make these bold moves that maybe don't go the way that we hoped or planned, even if we think we're going to fail, that we believe enough in ourselves that we're going to try them anyway. And I just feel like for me, it's on the hard days. If I tell myself, if I can just make one bold move today, then I have done what I committed to do. And on the great days, maybe I make a couple, right? And that's okay too. But I think it gives us a sense of purpose and fulfilling our potential when we concentrate on being able to do one thing at a time this way.
And I love you include the whole person. This book includes not just career, but you as a person, because we all do have many different facets, and we do have hard days, and we have to keep moving, just one small step moving forward, because it's not, not everything, we can't always vibrate high. And that's what I try to tell my clients too, is it's okay to have bad days, just
For
so long
sure.
as you don't stay there too long.
Yes. Yes. I think we probably, use some of the similar approaches to I'm not always happy. I don't want people to think that this requires you to be always happy. I call myself a rational optimist. It means I believe in what is possible for myself and others. And when you believe in what's possible for yourself and others, that doesn't mean that you're ignoring the hard things to yourself or in the world. It just means that you see the potential to get through them, that you can create clarity and ambiguity. And I find that to be such a stronger life skill for me than trying to just be positive or just have a good day.
Well, it's much more realistic, but you also talk about finding your power, sort of finding your superpower, which will help with all of this as well.
Certainly for us to figure out what makes us great, what values we contribute to the world, figuring out what your superpowers are is something you can do on your own. You can talk about with friends and loved ones. What are the things that you think I do well that other people maybe doesn't come as naturally to other people? It took me a long time to realize that some of the things that I do really well are not necessarily something that other people do. And I will be the first to tell you, Michelle, when there's things that I don't do well so that someone else can step into that and shine.
Well, that's great, right? It's like stepping into your genius and knowing what your genius is really helps. So I have to ask you, we're going to take a little bit of a left turn. I love this question, but if there was one thing you could get rid of in the world, if you could wave your magic wand, what would that be?
Well, I love talking about magic wands, like, love talking about this. I think it helps people, free up from, and really step into possible thinking. Um, if I could get rid of one thing in this world, it would really be the gender bias against women. When I think about how much that has held all of us back in our careers to the point where it begins to hold us back within ourselves, the constant doubting, the maternal wall, as soon as you even think about having a kid or you get married, obviously you're not committed to your career. All of these things really, thinking about those glass shards, we have cuts and scars from the experiences that we have in the workplace, because of people doubting us, because of people thinking we're not committed. And I just think, my gosh, how much more could we accomplish? How much more could we feel fulfilled if that's what I would use my magic wand for.
I love that because I think about that too, not only the gender gap, but the age gap or
Mm,
not gap, but the ageism as well that we're kind of sort of bombarded with. And I think about that comment made by the CNN reporter,
oh,
about,
our prime. Oh my gosh.
right?
In
I
it
mean,
every day. Thank you.
I
In my
know.
prime every day.
It's just the craziest, the fact that it's 2023 and somebody was saying that on national television and thought
Yes,
it was okay made me take a pause that, oh gosh, we still have a ways to go. Talk
we
about the
really
shards
do.
of glass, right?
Yes, we do. I kept thinking it might be better, by now. When we were talking about this, I call myself a Zennial, which is, on the cusp of Gen X and Millennial. And I really thought that it would be better in my lifetime. I know I've talked about this with many women in all different ages, and we still have so much more work to do. That's why you leading this conversation for, midlife, mid-career women to really to have this safe space to learn and process together.
Yeah, we have to hold each other up. And I want people so desperately to realize this is our power time. This is our time right now. And we need to make those bold moves every day and run with it. So, Shauna, this has been so much fun. Where can people get in contact with you?
Well, I would love to continue the conversation. My website is oneboldmoveaday.com and shannahocking.com.
I love that. And you can get the One Bold Move a Day book at Amazon. I'll have it in the link if you need that. And Shauna, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on the New Mid.
Thank you. What a great conversation. Thank you so much, Michelle.